blessing to have Yeshabel with us. I think she's the baby of the group. Yes, the youngest. So thank you, Yeshabel, for blessing the group with your energy and your willingness to learn. And I think this is something that all young Fijian women should openly share their willingness to learn. And more questions you ask, what will you learn? And I think that's something we learn about Yeshabel. She asks about everything and anything. We are very patient with her. Time to limit. But she always talks about her matriarchs, her side of the family, her Koroniwasu. And also I've been blessed to be her future language teacher for a while. So he was my student. Makarata was my student, and I have more students in this room looking that way. But also like to train my classes online. My second question to you, lady artists, if you can share with the group, what motivated you to actually join the VEIQIA project? And maybe that's the first question, and then maybe when we come the second round, why you would like to be in this art space, especially for VEIQIA. So we start with you, and also for our audience, if you want to say something, please feel free to say something.
I really love to learn about our culture and what's in museums, and what our old people did. I'm very inspired by our practices from the past.
And I think combining all of your three answers, these are some of the keywords I've been inspired with by this project. The three R's. One is remembrance, which I think is coming through in the answers. The remembering of the art form we taught to them by your mother, and then you mentioned about your grandmother as well. Also, the second R is reconnection. How we are reconnected with our family line, but also using the art of VEIQIA to make that connection. And then also the other R is remembering the resilience of our Maramiti, Fijian women. And I think the more we have this kind of gatherings, the better we are, reconnecting with ourselves, but also with our mobile. So, ladies, for your heartfelt answers, and I think your responses have really reminded us about the importance of the role of our mothers. And it's wonderful to see a lot of women in this circle, not only our mothers, but our grandmothers as well. The other question I would like to ask each of you is to maybe just highlight maybe two key lessons you have personally learned for the last couple of days. I know you have 20, but just two. Two things maybe you have taken as artists, and then the second round will be two things that you think you will give maybe to anyone in this circle or anyone that is listening to our conversation. So we'll start with the first two things you have taken on board as an artist for this project.
I think one thing I learned, so we, as a part of the project, so it was 6 of us artists based in diaspora, so in Sydney, New Zealand, and US, and we got partnered with 5 locally based artists who all come from a very strong museum practice. And I was so inspired by the connection that the local artists were using the materials and the connection they have with their lure. It was a really incredible experience. That was in June this year. We came together here at the museum and did a workshop program together and shared our stories and knowledge of one another. And it was just a really life-changing experience. So each of us worked in pairs and we all got given a life stage of a VEIQIA that we were to create. I got the first VEIQIA, so that represented when a woman was coming of age. And I really wanted to use contemporary materials to respect the local weavers who have that strong connection with natural materials. And I really, really wanted to, this is where you can close your ears, Auntie. I really wanted to use denim because I wanted to really connect with that idea of being like a rebellious teenager when you're going through puberty, and use contemporary materials around what it was like for me growing up in Australia or wanting to have my own identity there. But I actually found using contemporary materials really hard, and actually I struggled because I have such respect for the local women who are weavers because it's such a physically intensive and time-intensive process. And I realised I had to, in making something contemporary, I also had to make the process contemporary for myself. So in the end, I made a VEIQIA that was quite simple. And I think that was just because of how, I live such a different lifestyle now, and if I really wanted to bring this practice back into my lifestyle and make it work for me, I also needed to contemporize the process for myself. I had this big idea that I thought I was going to recreate this one that was in the collection, but, there was no way that I could recreate that knowledge really. So I just had to create something that worked for me. That was one of the things that I talking about how the materials are becoming more and more inaccessible. I think that was something that really shocked me. You know, lots of different factors that impact the longevity of our Indian craft practices. So it's so important, and I'm so grateful to you both for being part of this project, because the knowledge that you share is so sacred. So those are some of the things that I learned.
So kaya na wala-wala hindi tayo-tayo. Kaya wala-wala tayo na ito ba yung mga magama. So dahil sa mga kagulit ng pina, na naman yung masita ko chico na sa-side na bilang sinama. Meron sinasawa chico. Pagdating na kayo ng pagmitiwa, yung malagay tayo na talagang tayo yung date na chico. Sa mga kaya yung sa kanilang gagawin ang tawag ng tayo. Kasi gagawin ka rin na rin yung okay lang sa mga gagawin niya. Sa akin yung mga bago yung nakapagod nila na hindi ko yung feel sa pinabago.
For the non-teaching speakers, just like to summarize their responses, particularly in terms of not knowing what VEIQIA is all about. And I just wanted to have an indication in the room that with the show of hands, how many of you actually knew that we have the VEIQIA tradition in Fiji 1 century ago or two? Yeah, so with some show of hands. Yeah, enough. I'm looking at the women from the Minister of Women here. Marami ta, bisa mungkin apa kembali serta terlihat na gagawin niya naman ako. Give me the mic to say you want to the mic. About the thing that you now I'm learning that, about the process, people are really looking at the posters and the programs that we were curious, and we had discussions around. We even the experts, like, how to use power, because
question. Before you go back to the, I think this is the first time for me to hear it. And then I can do it for my project. And I think this is a good platform. Maybe it's a good time to start. Because I see around the room the age range. It's good. And we have us, and then there's this huge gap of passion knowledge that needs to be passed on from our sisters. And I'm glad Dr. T and the student for doing such a good opportunity, especially for us to know about the local
Alright, just like explain. So we go to different desks. I work for the Department of Law. So I work under the Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls. And I volunteer works for women's at home. Also, our coordinator for our work. Before I go to the third question, and I know we'll have the time to go inside the exhibition space, and you're welcome to also ask questions, particularly for our artists. Yeah, they will be able to tell you more about the work that they have created. We have Dr. Karen sitting here, and I know she has accessed and seen a lot of the link. Again, we talked about the VEIQIA. With the show of hands, how many of you knew that you have the link to them especially made for your own move back in the day? Gusto natin natin? Berapa sesuatu itu? Ya? Kita berkata, semalam kali waktu kita boleh banyak kata. Okay, that's another topic to discuss later. But I pass the mic over to Karen because she also wrote her book on the leap. Maybe Dr. Karen, if it's okay, just to share with us, maybe just what motivated you to write about the leap, because many of us is all new, and we're just so grateful that you're able to create a resource that we can share with our daughters and our granddaughters.
So the book is available open access online, so that was one of the main motivations for me. That's the novel was available as well. Because yes, I was working at the university on the self-distribution project. We wanted to look at elections, especially in the UK to start with, and to see what was there and to share, especially with GBC. And I'm going to go on one of these first. And actually nobody seems to know about it. So it seems pretty. So I was moved further and further, and I never knew from the start that it was going to be India. And then I guess, which was amazing, and it really worked. But yeah, so I through kind of piecing together the scripts and drawings and then all descriptions that we have, I learned that there's different reasons for each stage in your life. So when you first become a woman, you get pictures about the and then when you become a mother, or when you get married and you're a mother, or when you have relations, there's all different types of people who are older than which is amazing. And they disperse themselves and each themselves are, they show so much skill, so much creativity, that every time I'm doing it, I feel very privileged to have seen them, and I wish you all could see them, but for now, we can share with us.
Dr. Karen, I think you've really reminded us the importance of documenting also our stories. We have so many stories in our own families, our own Matagaya, Musaka, even in our own villages. So writing our own stories, writing our own books, Dr. Karen has really inspired many of us to start writing. for generations. So we will go back to our three beautiful artists, and then moving at the time. I think the time is right. Okay, good. So I'm glad. And then after that we go inside, and it will be nice to hear from the artists, and then you will see the actual link that they made. And we can answer more questions over there. So back to you, ladies. The last question. In terms of, you shared what you learned. Now you want to talk about what you have felt. What would be one thing you would like to share with any young Fijian girl to know and appreciate about Indonesia? Just one.
I think for me, my father's Australian and my mother's Fijian, so I've always really naturally had such a strong connection to my Masu line. And for me, like, I think the one thing I'd like to share and maybe encourage other people is just to, I think something I've learned in this project is like the VEIQIA and the VEIQIA is about reattaching that reverence to our Masu line. So I think that may be what I would like to encourage and share.
Again, to our non-Fijian speakers, our two ladies have reiterated the importance to revive the tradition of weaving, the liku, and also in terms of the knowledge of India. And for my master on the other side was saying about the importance of encouraging our young Fijian girls who are more attached to their phones these days. Maybe I mentioned TikTok and a few other things, but they can use technology actually to learn something.